and welcome back to another episode of the Smart Money Show. My name is Naman, and as usual, I'm joined by Ali Suleiman. How are things?
I'm good, bro. It feels like it's been a while since we've both been in the hot seat. Obviously, we filmed up a lot of episodes in like anticipation for this month because obviously you've been away. How was your kind of holiday abroad?
Yeah, it was good. Just a nice change of scenery as well. A nice change of weather as well. So
Yeah.
it was good. The flight back, traveling for 30 hours isn't really easy. But look, I'm here and I'm alive. So
Yeah,
that's what matters, right?
exactly that. And we're back doing an amazing episode that we're super passionate about and excited for. So again, we're joined by yet another finance professional within the field. So today we're joined by Pearl Thakrar. She is a diligent and ambitious individual who is currently pursuing a master's in financial analysis at London Business School, supported by a merit-based scholarship. Pearl began her journey studying management with finance at Warwick Business School, where she was proactive in seeking opportunities and gaining experience quite early on. During her first year, she completed both spring and summer internships with a focus on venture capital and asset management, developing strong insight into the buy side. Her drive and performance led her to then convert her spring internship at UBS into a summer placement within the asset management division. And after a successful summer, a further conversion, she joined the 2023 graduate intake in the alternatives team, rotating into real estate private equity before settling into the alternatives product team. Alongside her work, she's also achieved the coveted CFA Level 1. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into her journey from Warwick to UBS and now London Business School, exploring how she approached internships and conversions, the reality of working in alternatives, and the lessons she has learned along the way. We also discuss the importance of resilience, curiosity, and creating opportunities for yourself within the world of finance, as well as her advice for students looking to break in as well as stand out as usual. So without further ado, I'm very excited to welcome Pearl onto the podcast. Pearl, how are you and welcome?
I'm good, thank you. That was such a lovely introduction. I feel like I couldn't have introduced myself like that. Thank you so much for that. I've been good. It's been a few crazy weeks since I started university, but
Hmm.
all going good now.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
think we can relate on the university front, right?
yeah. I think September and early October, everyone's just shifting into their routines when it
Literally,
comes to uni, doesn't it?
literally, like all new classes, making new friends, going for social events. It's just been everything all over the place, settling back into London, which wasn't as difficult as the first time. But yeah, still so many things combined right now, and meeting old colleagues from UBS and my friends who've already been here. So it's just been a crazy month since I've moved back. But yeah, I'm
Hmm.
here now and all good.
Yeah, perfect. And I think it will smoothen out by end of October, early November. It always smooths out, doesn't it? But anyways, so
Yeah,
we're here for another fantastic episode of the Smart Me Show. And as people know, we normally kick off. So Ali, if you can allow me to, we normally kick off with a introduction on your early life and I guess your start when you started thinking about finance, just so that our viewers and me and Ali as hosts can get a nice preview on who you are and what your early ambitions were. So to kick off, a very broad question. So what were some of the early influences that um, geared your career choices?
of course. So obviously I started university in 2020, which was the year of COVID. I came into Warwick with like a really open mind, but I always in the back of my head knew that as soon as I finish my undergraduate degree, I probably might move back to Mumbai. But it's just that in Warwick, there's always this finance bubble. I had never really thought about finance as like a viable career option. That's why starting out, my degree was always management in the start. But because of that bubble, I was kind of drawn into finance. The professors were really good. I learned so many things. And I was like, okay, maybe I should try applying for a few spring weeks here and there. And at that point, at the back of my head, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get any spring weeks because I'm so late into the cycle. I've seen people with like better resumes than mine, better profiles, better academic achievements. So I feel like I always felt like I wouldn't be the one to get a spring week, but somehow I lucked out and I got a few spring weeks. Those spring weeks also really helped me like distinguish finance, like what is IB, what is sales and trading, what is asset management. And I felt like that was really needed for someone like me who never even thought about having like a career in finance. So I feel like early influences, I would say my professors, my friends, like especially my friends who really like pushed me and they were like, you have to apply for this. We feel like you have a potential. So I feel like those were like the early influences for me to just apply and just go forward with even thinking about a career in finance.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great way to kick off the episode because, as Naman said, it's a great way for us to kind of provide the frame to the picture that we're trying to create and paint throughout this episode. And it leads me quite nicely into my next question, actually, which is how did you decide on the undergraduate degree you actually chose at Warwick Business School, which was, I believe, management with finance? Why did you decide to study that rather than potentially a more technical route like just straight economics or accounting and finance? Just eager to see kind of the mindset behind that.
Of course. So initially, when I came into Warwick, I said I would probably move back to Mumbai, India. So I was always in the mindset that I was going to join my family business. So naturally, management made the most sense. Um, and uh, I was like, okay, this makes the most sense. I'll study management. I do maybe like an entrepreneurship or like a marketing major, and then I go back to my family business. So finance was never even at the top of my mind. That is why I feel like accounting and finance or economics just wasn't the natural path for me. And also I'm someone who's like really bad with accounting. So I was like, okay, I can't do a whole degree in accounting. So I was like, okay, this is out for me. So management was just like the natural choice. But the good thing was Warwick does have so many specializations. So towards the end, when I changed my mind and I was like, okay, now I want to do something in finance, I had the leeway to do it.
Oh, okay. And then I guess a follow-up question I want to ask on that quickly is, so of course you started off and you chose this degree because your aim was more to enter the like enter business rather than strict finance. So would you change that then now that you've of course went directly for now that you've I guess you're aiming for a career within finance?
I feel like I wouldn't change anything because after I finished my finance degree, I also jumped right into sorry, into the CFA level one, and now I'm also doing another master's in finance. So I feel like I wouldn't change anything about it. I'm just like really happy that Warwick gave me the choice to take certain finance modules and do a finance specialization to even realize that, oh, this could be a potential career path for me.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, another following on from that, because we always like to explore people who've come from different degree backgrounds, because within the UK student community, sorry, aspiring finance student community, they everyone's kind of really strict about unis and degrees. And me and Aman don't agree on the degree side of things. We can understand it from like a target school sort of thing. I get that, but not from a degrees point of view. So what would you say to potentially like a sixth form student who was considering maybe like a management degree but was aiming for finance? Is it the be all and end all that they are doing a management degree? Would you maybe recommend that they do economics?
So I feel like no one needs to study economics or accounting and finance to get a job in finance. Like I had someone who was like a psychology major and still doing the summer internship with me. Because when you actually start the internship, they don't expect you to know anything. Nothing at all. They'll give you all the training necessary. People are super nice, always happy to help. I feel like the finance people come with the thing that, oh, if we have like an economics or like an accounting and finance major, it's going to be easier for us to land a summer internship. But honestly, there were not a lot of people in my summer internship class who actually had a finance degree. There was someone with a material sciences background, there was someone with mechanical engineering, there was someone with psychology, there was me, and there was then one economics kid. But there was literally no one who actually studied pure economics and then came into UBS because they know they also value diverse perspectives. So if you've studied a degree other than the core finance ones, they're like, okay, we want to see the perspective that this person brings into our team. And they I feel like banks also have that mindset that the people who are gonna come in for the summer internships or the graduate roles, they know that they are also not gonna know anything. So we have to give them training anyway. So I feel like they're looking for more well-rounded candidates who have expressed an interest in finance and don't know anything about finance. So I feel like the interest is more important than actually knowing the stuff. So even when in an interview you're asked a question, like a finance question, they just want to see how you approach the question. They don't really care about the final answer that you give them. So it's completely okay if you're not from like a finance background. And yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more. But then also, if you can get like the best of both worlds as well. So I'm lucky enough. So my degree that I do is financial maths. So I've got like a strict bit of maths, but then I get the finance as well. So yeah, there are like different courses out there. So So as you said, like none of those are restrictive options, aren't they?
It's all exhaustive. You can literally study anything and enter into finance. And even once you're there, and if you feel like you want to do more finance, there's CFA, there's Kaya, there's so many other degree exams that you could give and learn the same things that we've learned in university. Because CFA level one was it had so much of an overlap in like content with what I'd already studied in university as part of like my finance specialization. So even if you are not coming from a finance background, even if you feel lost at work, there's just so many other avenues that you can take after you've done your undergraduate uh, to just specialize in finance.
Yeah, amazing. And I think this is the perfect point to move on to the next section of the episode, where we are going to speak about like internships and actually breaking in. Now, I remember when we had a call with you before, you also mentioned that, of course, you've had a successful like application cycles, but then also whilst you were at UBS, you were very you engaged with these different Spring Insight programs. So I think a question to kick it off then. So you managed to line up both a spring and a summer internship in your first year. So what was applications and what was that period like for you?
I feel like application period is really stressful for everyone. It's like a part-time job in university that you have to do. But for me, it was slightly different because I already did a spring week, and at the back of my head, somewhere I knew that UBS might reach out to me for like a potential interview for the summer internship. However, in the first term of second year, I was still heavily recruiting. I was still applying to a lot of places. And I feel like that process is so draining for a lot of students. And I made a lot of mistakes. I feel like students are also making a lot of mistakes those first few months because they focus all their time and energy into recruiting, but they never network. And networking is as important as you applying for the job. Like, for example, you reach out to LinkedIn, you reach out to people on LinkedIn, you reach out to 20 people. There's a good chance one of them might reply to you, and the insight that that one person gives you is going to help you so much with your higher views and your cover letter. So I feel like while you're also applying, networking is really, really important. Because just recently I know someone who went for like an employer presentation event, and he asked the associate a lot of questions at the event, and right after he sent his CV on LinkedIn to the associate saying, can you please check this for me? But the associate liked the person so much, they just sent the CV directly to HR. So I feel like networking is just so important. If because everyone's going to make 100 applications, what's going to be your distinguishing factor? Because even teams want to see people who are reaching out to them, who are enthusiastic about it. So I feel like even if you're applying to 100 jobs, take those 15-20 minutes extra and schedule those coffee chats. I feel like that's really important. It doesn't have to be in person. People are more than happy to do it over Zoom now. So I feel like that's really important.
Hmm. Big time. No, it's great advice. And I think sometimes in the student community, people just have, they don't have an aim with coffee chats. They just do it for the sake of it. And then the sort of intention behind it. I'm a big believer you've got to be intentional with stuff you do, especially when you're application season, you've got to be intentional. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And you know, this was actually interesting as well because normally what we hear from like it's kind of an unwritten rule where networking is more your New York, your USA. However, the fact that it does hold value here in the UK as well, it is really interesting. I think that is great insight for our viewers in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads quite nicely into my next question. Again, still on the sort of internship sort of side. So in your first year, you kind of, I believe, or just early on in your studies, you explored venture capital and asset management. So what stood out to you from those first corporate experiences within the industry?
So the internship that I did in venture capital, that was in Mumbai, and that was super fun. And I was like, okay, now I wanna probably stay within the buy side. That is why when I got the spring week at UBS, I finished it. They asked for a preference because they have so many different divisions. And at that point, I was like, okay, fine. Asset management just sounds so appealing to me because, unlike investment banking, you're with the client for 7 to 8 months, and you can actually see a difference in their portfolio and their returns, and you're with them throughout. So that was like the most appealing factor for me to apply for asset management. But when I started the internship, I was actually placed into the client coverage team. So I wasn't doing more of the technical stuff. I was mostly working on like client coverage um things, and it was super nice. Like work hours were not as bad, very relaxed. The one thing about UBS that I have to say is that the people are so nice. Like there is room for every dumb question, every stupid question that you have. People actually encourage you to ask that because they're investing so much of their time and money after you. They kind of want you to know everything by the end of the graduate program or the summer internship. So my first experiences have been amazing, especially with UBS. Like the people have been warm, training has been really good. And this is something that I don't know if it's UBS specific, but right before I started the summer internship, I was actually paired up with a mentor 2 months before the start of the summer, someone from asset management. And she was lovely. Like she used to schedule like chats with me once a week, and she used to encourage me to ask more and more questions. And that's when I knew that when I'm gonna go into the firm, it's not gonna be really awkward or me trying to not like me just not knowing anything, because people were just super nice. They recommended things to me. They were like, okay, read this book, go through these presentations if you have some time. Um, and it was just a really, really good experience for me overall. And even towards the end of my summer internship, I was in client coverage, but I always felt like I would do better in a more technical role. So I literally just reached out to my manager and I was like, look, I really like you. I really like the team, but this just isn't a fit for me. And she was so welcoming about the fact. And she actually set up interviews with the alternatives team and me. So I feel like my experiences have been really, really good, like the initial ones.
Yeah, amazing. And I think again that's so much insight because of course, yes, we have people who are currently we have the application cycle going on, but then of course when people go beyond into that springs, but of course their summers mainly, that I think that advice will hold a lot of value for them. So a question I have right now is that now looking back, I know you've kind of answered this question as well, but looking back now, how do you think firms really evaluate interns then during the summer?
I feel like they get so many applications for summer internships. Everyone is applying for these summers. Uh, I feel like sometimes it's a little bit of luck as well. But I feel like before the recruit before the recruitment cycle starts, every student has to be well prepared with their resumes and cover letters. But I'm not really sure what, like, I feel like the firm looks for like a more well-rounded candidate with like a slight interest in finance. They don't want your proper finance bros. Like they don't expect university students to be like that. So I feel like they're looking for a more well-rounded candidate, someone who's had a lot of extracurricular activities. Fewer internships is fine, but I feel like a lot of extracurricular activities might play like a might be better, because that's one distinguishing factor that you have in comparison to the other candidates also applying. And it also shows a lot of leadership. It also shows a lot of multitasking. It just shows a lot of different things. So I feel like firms really value that if you've done like different leadership experiences, a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of volunteering. Firms love volunteering these days. If you've done a lot of volunteering, they really value that because they know you're studying, you're volunteering, you're doing club societies work. So I feel like they really value the multitasking bit a lot. So I feel like that's how they kind of shortlist it. And obviously, for example, at the end of your first year, if you've done an internship in finance, it's more likely that they pick you, even if you're from like a different degree, because that that kind of shows more interest in finance from your part. So I feel like extracurriculars, volunteering, club societies, maybe using the summer to learn like a coding language, and obviously like a prior internship in finance in your first year also shows a lot of interest. So I feel like that are some things that the firms are looking for.
Hmm. Yeah, that's brilliant advice. There's definitely some golden nuggets in there, and I think we've spoken amazingly and in detail about how firms, as you said, Naman, evaluate interns, but from an external perspective. But I think the golden question of this section, Pearl, is you converted your spring week at UBS. I did a spring week at UBS as well, so you converted your spring week at UBS into a summer role. What do you think set you individually apart? What do you think set you apart in that conversion process?
Honestly, so many people ask me this question, and I have no idea. I know so many people who are like way smarter than me. But I just feel like I was someone who went with like a really open mind. I was really enthusiastic about finance. I asked a lot of questions. So even while you're in the spring week, make yourself known. Like everyone should know you. Every panel that you attend, because UBS does a lot of panels. Towards the end, I actually started sitting for the spring week panels to answer questions. But just make yourself known, because when I was also part of the spring week panels, towards the end, I think earlier this year, I was sitting on a panel for asset management. They told us that if you see someone who's asking you a lot of questions, let us know. So even when you're once you make it to the spring week, that's not it. You asking a lot of questions really makes a difference, because they know, okay, this person is really like really engaging, asking a lot of questions, very enthusiastic, loves finance, clearly. So they will give you a shot to give you an interview for the summer internship. But I feel like the key is to just make yourself stand out, ask as many questions as you can. Once the spring week is done, like the end of your day, 5 p.m., reach out to those same people on LinkedIn and let them know that I'm thankful that you were part of the panel. I'm thankful that you were a speaker. I've learned so many things from you, so that they remember you and they recommend you. Because before every panel and every speaker session that I used to go for with UBS, uh, they used to send me a list of names, and they were like, these are the resumes. These are the people that you met in the event. Can you let us know a couple of them that you found really enthusiastic and really and someone that we could hire? So I feel like that is key. So while you're at the spring week, network a lot, ask a lot of questions, reach out to them after. I feel like that's the key to convert your spring week to a summer internship. Because you might be the smartest person sitting in the room, but if you don't ask the right questions, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think sometimes what happened during my springs was that the fans would say, "Oh, you don't need to worry. Like you won't be assessed during the actual spring." But yeah, you're not directly being assessed. But then there's other things that you can indirectly help your overall application, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. But I think again, it is time to move on to the next section of the episode. Now we're going to talk more about like your time at UBS during your summer, but then more post of was graduating. So a question to kick that off. So once you joined UBS, what were like your first weeks like as like an actual graduate working?
So we had a whole month of training, and the training was really super exciting. We had sessions from we used to have guest speaker sessions from fixed income to alternatives to equities to hedge funds, multi-manager products. So they just wanted to give us a very holistic view of the business. So the first month we actually didn't have to do any work. Like we didn't have to do any actual work. We just had to sit back, attend the training sessions, attend the speaker sessions, and that was about it. But even in the training, they gave us a very thorough Excel training. So people going into the job worried about they don't know how to use Excel, don't worry at all. They've got you covered. So they gave us a very thorough Excel training. Training. We also had trading simulations. We had these speaker sessions. We had a lot of networking. So in the first one, we used to have these drinks with graduates from my cohort as well as graduates from investment banking and sales and trading, where all of us used to just come meet over drinks and food. And it was really nice to just see different faces in different divisions of the bank. Um, so my first month was actually really fun. I made a lot of friends in UBS. I connected with the graduates a lot more. And just got a lot of insight into the business as a whole.
Yeah, amazing. And that's the great thing about potential graduate schemes as well, is how kind of welcoming they are with the majority of firms, and also how much they're willing to kind of help you, settle into the firm. Because at the end of the day, you're an investment for the firm, and so they have to, make sure that you're trained up and also enjoying the work at the same time. But as we said at the top of the episode in your intro, we mentioned that you worked in alternatives and real estate private equity. You experienced rotations across them. So how did you find those rotations? Were they what you expected? Were they which one did you prefer? What stood out from you from those learning experiences? Sorry.
So, so when I went in, I was obviously my home team was alternatives. I started with alternatives. I kind of went in with an open mind again, and I was like, I don't want to decide what rotation I want to do right now. I want to have like a little taster. Um, of what it's going to be like and then pick my rotation. So because I was in alternatives, I was structuring products and I was structuring products for infrastructure, private equity, infrastructure, real estate, fund of funds. So both real estate and infrastructure and fund of funds, the hedge fund and hedge fund solutions, which is the fund of fund for hedge funds. And while I was working, I found that the direct investment team, so real estate and infrastructure and hedge funds appealed to me the most. And then after a couple of months, while I was still working on those products, I was like, okay, yes, real estate might be a really good fit for me. I really want to do my rotation there. So my first steps were to ask my manager, is it okay if I do like a rotation? Like it has to be like 3, 4 months, not more than that, in the real estate team. And she was very, very welcoming about that fact. So I started networking with people from the real estate team who sit on the same floor. Like I knew of them. So I started networking with them, and I was like, are there any potential rotation, graduate rotation opportunities that you could give me? Um, so yeah, I kind of started reaching out to them. Uh, and with rotations, I kind of always marketed myself as like, you're gonna have an extra set of hands, so that's not never a bad thing. So it would be great if you could just give me some space and I could just do a rotation in your team. But then cut to like 2 months before my rotation was gonna start, they said that they don't have space anymore. But my manager was really nice, and she actually went to them and she spoke to them, and she was like, "No, you have to take her. She's really nice. Like, she'll do the work. She'll get the job done." And I feel like it's these little things that your managers do for you, that make a really big difference. Because if she didn't go out of her way and if she didn't help me out with this, maybe I wouldn't have that taster into real estate. So yeah, I feel like I kind of decided my rotation not early on, but as and when like I was going with the flow, as in how the job was going to decide what I want to do next. Which is the approach I think a lot of people should take, because when people go into asset management, whatever team they're in, they kind of always want to do a rotation in equity research. But there's so many other different things that uh, asset management has to offer as well. Like credit is booming right now, alternatives is a great space, like a lot of diversification. And I feel like just go with an open mind. And don't think about your rotation, because even if you feel like you're interested in equity research, there might be so many other avenues and so many other options that are there for you, which worked out great for me.
Amazing. That's interesting. It just seemed like you had a really, really great manager at UBS, didn't you? But I guess one question I wanted to ask was, I guess like taking a bit of a step back and looking more overall. Now, buy side asset management is one thing, but then I've heard, I could be wrong in this case, but I've heard people describe like alternatives and the wider alternative space as like a different kettle of fish, if you get what I'm saying. So is there anything that surprised you about alternatives, and or just like what is your overall insight into that?
So, obviously, when you're doing an internship in asset management or you're doing a graduate role, you you kind of expect that they put you in equity research or like fixed income, or something more, one of the more traditional asset classes. So when I actually started my job in alternatives, I had no idea about alternatives because your university curriculum doesn't cover that. You have no idea about, like, okay, fine, I know what real estate is, I know what commodities are, I know what infrastructure is, but I don't actually know how it works. Sorry. Because even with um because even with equities and and fixed income bonds, you kind of know how to value them. Like, because you have so many courses available online on how to value an equity, how to give a rating to a bond. Like, there's so many resources available out there. So when I went into the job, I was a bit scared. I was like, okay, I have no idea what this works. And it actually is quite different. The way you approach alternatives versus the way you approach equities is so different, because obviously with equities there's a liquid market available. You can actually see how the stocks are being traded. You can see what's going on. But with alternatives, it is a most of the assets are very illiquid. It's a different it's completely different. Like even valuing an alternative asset is a lot more different than valuing equities. So I feel like the two are really very different from each other in terms of like modeling, in terms of like I feel like with alternatives, especially with real estate, it's like when you buy a building, you have a baby and you see the baby grow. That's the easiest way I can put it. And you're so like connected to the process because it's not just a desk job when you're doing anything in real estate because or anything in alternatives because you go for so many site visits. If you have to lease the property out, you speak to agents and tenants, and you also do a bit of modeling and valuation. And I feel like there's so much more to offer in the alternative space as a whole because while you're in doing equities, it's more of a desk job, in my opinion. Um, so I feel like yeah, alternatives is very, very different from like your traditional asset classes. And it's super fun as well. Like there's so much to learn. It's a very big booming space. Investors want to invest a lot of their money in alternatives, obviously because it's a very good diversification asset for them as well. So a lot of scope in alternatives, but just the lack of resources make people feel like um it's going to be difficult. But I feel like once you start the job, everyone's really welcoming and they teach you everything that you're supposed to know. And it's kind of like on the go learning kind of thing. Like you learn while you're on the job anyways.
Hmm. No, it sounds like such a varied role, and alternatives is such an amazing space. It's one I have particular passion for, just because of how different it is, how many different spaces there are just within that, within the whole sector of the industry, which is the cool part, of course. Obviously, in your intro, Pearl, we mentioned that you are also, a CFA level 1 holder. So, how did you balance the technical CFA studies with the practical learning of actually being on desk, meeting clients, going to site visits? How did you actually get it done? Is basically what I'm asking.
It was honestly, I only got 5 days of study leave, which was not much. But it was also that all the other graduates in the graduate scheme were giving the CFA with me. So we had such a good support system that even after work, we used to just sit for a bit. We used to do a couple of quizzes, we used to do a couple of tests. But those few months have been really, really hectic, just managing work, coming back from work, studying for another 3 hours at night, and then going off to sleep. But I feel like with the right people, with the right support, with the right managers, it is all possible because towards the end, like even while some of the days when I didn't have a lot of work, my manager used to tell me that I'm not gonna like give you more work. Even if you're in the office, you can open your book and start studying. It's completely okay because they understand the value of these examinations and they're kind of motivating you to give it. So I feel like it's very, very manageable to do a CFA level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 with work, because there's just so much support available. Even with my whole CFA, I got textbooks and like a teaching provider, and UBS paid for everything because they were like, take all the resources that you need, but just pass the exam. So yeah, I feel like it can be a bit hectic if you're doing CFA with work, but it's manageable for sure. It 100% is manageable. You sometimes might have to sacrifice your weekends and study, but I feel like that's all part of the learning process and it should be okay.
Yeah, and ag- like whenever we do have a guest on that does have the CFA and they've achieved it whilst working, I always find the response to this question so interesting because I've heard people talk about CFA alone being like a task in itself, but then completing that whilst working. Yes, as you mentioned, it was probably an intense few months, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah, it was an intense first few months, but with CFA, the other thing is while you're doing it with the job, it's more beneficial because you're reading about something that you're seeing the same thing at work. So I feel like there's also like a practical element to it. So whenever people reach out to me and ask me, I always recommend them to do the CFA while working, because obviously that's going to help them a lot more because you're studying something on the spot and you're working as well. So you're kind of applying your studying to working because we all know we're going to study something, but we're going to forget it in the next couple of months. So it's always beneficial to do the CFA while working, and CFA always gives you that leeway that you can like push your exam to the next available date for a fee. So even if you feel like one day before the exam that you're not prepared, you can always push your exam. But I feel like just working and studying together is a good combination because um, studying is something that will also keep your mind off of work. because you don't want to be the person who comes back from work and thinks about work again. That's why I feel like CFA was just a good thing to have at that point when I had something else to do, which I was looking forward to as well in the day.
Yeah, 100%. Because of course, like it's renowned, but people don't take it just so it can look pretty, just so it can look pretty on their CVs or something. That there's actual genuine benefits, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Pearl, this leads us brilliantly into, unfortunately, our penultimate section of the episode, and probably the most valuable to me and Naman, but also our audience as well. And it's about pursuing further study. It's a big decision, and it's one that no one takes lightly. And it's one that me and Naman, I'm in my final year now, so I'm, definitely considering. But I wanted to ask, to kick this off, what made you decide to pursue a master's at LBS rather than staying in the industry?
Uh, this is a question which is asked to me by a lot of people. So I started applications in January of this year, and with LBS, I kind of applied on the day of the deadline. So I was really surprised I even got the interview and the offer. But for me, I always saw myself going back home, to Mumbai, and I felt like this was the right next step for me. Like I have, I have the experience in the European markets, and I've always someone who always wanted to do a master's, and I was like, there's no better time than this year because once I go back, it's going to be a bit harder for me to come back to London. Um, and I was just like, LBS is a great place. Like, there's so much networking. You meet so many people from different countries, who have studied in different universities, the diverse perspective. I feel like that is something that is really, really important to me. And that is one of the other reasons why I chose to do a master's. It was obviously for skill building. A lot of my decision was based on networking. So once I go back, I also leave with the right set of network to go back to Mumbai. So I feel like more than the curriculum and the actual studying, I did the master's more for skill building and networking because I feel like when you're going to move to a different country, doing a master's is like the natural uh, step that you take before, uh, just so that you have that network when you go back home as well. Because obviously, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to move back to Mumbai after their masters, or going to be in Asia after their masters. Um, and also, while I was in my undergrad, I'd always thought that, okay, I really want to do a master's. Hence, I started applying for it.
Yeah. Okay. No, interesting, and yeah, that is more or less clear rationale, to be honest. But I guess I know you've only had like your first month and your first few weeks, and as everyone knows, it, those always feel like a weird fever dream. But comparing it to Warwick, how is LBS like? Because even Warwick Business School is amazing. It is one of the top business schools in the UK. So how does LBS fare to Warwick, like academically, socially, and of course on the networking end?
I feel like they're so different. Also, I was a different person when I started Warwick. Like, I was the most shy, introverted person in the room that you could find. Now, I'm really not any of those things. But I feel like the mindset that I had in Warwick was really different. The mindset that I had in LBS has been very different. But I feel like LBS is like a proper business school. Like, Warwick undergraduate was great, really nice. I made friends that are gonna last me a lifetime. Professors were good, faculty was good, but with the masters, I had that mindset in mind that I only want to do it in London. Both schools are really good, but I feel like when you're doing a master's versus an undergraduate, it's just two very different things because with a master's, the workload is a lot more. With undergrad, the workload was a lot lesser. Um, and with a like with undergrad, when I started, I was 18. Everyone else around me was 18. So I feel like it's just the mindset that differs. Um, and yeah, I feel like if I had to do my undergrad, I would still do it at Warwick. I would not change anything about it because that's the avenue that led me to UBS. That's the place that led me to LBS as well. So Warwick was kind of the foundation of my whole career for me. But with LBS, I feel like in comparison to a lot of schools in the UK, because I got into master's programs in other schools in the UK as well. The thing that distinguishes LBS is the network and the faculty and the program structure as a whole. For example, as a part of the program where we have to compulsorily do one global experience, which is basically like a 6 to 7 day trip where they take you to another country. They like you have to bid for that, and they take you to another country, and you kind of do like a consulting project, or you attend lectures, or like it's just these tiny experiences here and there that just made LBS such an appealing option for me. Because I was like, I was not behind the studying. I was more behind like the networking and the skill building. And this just felt like the right platform for me. So I feel like it's just these tiny opportunities that LBS has made LBS just stand out in comparison to all the other business schools in Europe or in London.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was right. This is definitely a golden section for the show. And I'm very glad that this is the penultimate one before we move on to our final few questions. But, Pearl, the final question I'm going to ask on this section is, did you see this decision to take a master's? Did you see this decision to go into further study? Did you see it as an accelerator for your career or more of a reset to kind of explore your options?
It was more as a reset to explore my options. Because as much as I really like finance, I never really tried anything else. So my whole aim with LBS is even though I'm doing like a master's in finance, I also want to take electives from like marketing and operations and economics and just see what it's like. And towards the end, even if I wanna do like a have a job in something else, I want that leeway to apply. Um, or like just go back to Mumbai and help my family business. So I don't think it was an accelerator for me. Because if it was, I would just probably stay back in UBS if I wanted to pursue like um finance or asset management as a whole. It was just like a reset for just to me to explore my options and to see if I have potential in anything other than finance. And that's what I've been trying to do since the past month, and that's what I will be doing throughout the rest of my program.
Yeah, which is I think again another golden nugget that people can take there. Maybe if they're like looking down maybe a couple of years in the future when they're exploring their career options, then yeah, 100% we appreciate you for that, Pearl. But as Ali said, that was the last question of that section, and now we are on to our final external. Final, I can't even speak properly. Our final section of the episode. Now, what we do in this section is that we ask these three questions, which we ask to all of our guests, which I think gives a nice overview and like really sums up the episode. So I'm going to kick off with the first one. So, looking back on your career journey, what are you the most proud of?
Looking back on my career journey, something that I'm most proud of. I feel like while I was working, I also had the opportunity to do a lot of volunteering and participate in a lot of panel sessions and just different stuff with UBS. So I feel like that is something that I'm most proud of because giving back to the community is a huge part of who I am, and UBS let me do a little bit of that. So I feel like that is something that I'm probably the most proud of.
Yeah, amazing. I would have said the same thing after hearing your journey on this episode. I would have said the exact same thing. And leads me nicely into the next question, which is if you could give your younger self, and you can choose what age you'd like to do for this question, but if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I feel like as my when I was younger, I was a lot more hyper. I was someone who used to get a lot into like peer pressure, like what other people are doing, I want to do the same thing. But I just want to tell my younger self, everything works out. Just do what you feel like doing, follow your heart, and everything will work out for sure. Like just go with your gut.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And I guess I don't want to break the momentum. So the final question, we really appreciate your time, Pearl. But so, what is the biggest takeaway you hope our listeners get from your story then?
Um, from my story, I feel like explore different options, even if you come with a certain mindset in university, like I did. Uh, s- uh, Talk to friends, talk to professors, do different internships here and there. Um, follow your heart, go with your gut. I feel like those are the two main things I keep telling people. And don't overthink anything. If you feel like this something is meant to be for you, something that you want to do, just do it, because you're never going to be in your 20s again. You're never going to be 18 again. This is the perfect age to do whatever you want to do. So I feel like that's one advice that I want to give to people, that you're never going to be in your early 20s again. You're never going to be a teenager again. Just take as many opportunities as you can. Stay up all night, explore different career paths, take up different hobbies, because that's a big part of shaping you as a person as a whole. So I feel like that's one advice I would definitely give to people. And I would also say, if you've come with the mindset to university that you only want to pursue a career in investment banking, finance has a lot of different options, and that's not, and it's really not an exhaustive list. So you can rethink, reach out to people, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. Everyone who reaches out to me. Um, but yeah, that's one piece of advice I would like to give.
Mm. Yeah. And what a way to end a brilliant episode with some brilliant advice in there, Pearl. I just going to thank you for your time. I know you're extremely busy, as you said at the start of the episode. So I really do appreciate it. And, this episode has been a long time coming, but it was absolutely worth it, right, Naman?
Yeah, I think I initially reached out before the rebrand, and then the rebrand that took a lot of time off. But it was 100% worth the wait.
Absolutely. So for our listeners and viewers, we hope you enjoyed that episode as much as me and Naman did. So if you are watching us on YouTube and you haven't already subscribed, then I hope Pearl has given you an amazing reason to subscribe for more episodes just like this from the Smart Money Show. And the same goes for those of you who are listening on audio platforms. You can drop us a rating and drop us a follow, and you can drop a comment on either platforms if there's someone we should be speaking to that we haven't spoken to yet, or a topic that we should cover on the show that we just haven't got around to speaking about yet. And of course, please do show us some love and engagement on our social media platforms and our website, where we post articles, short form videos, and are soon announcing some events where we'll be coming to speak face to face to students at universities and schools to deliver even more insights from professional guests. So we're very excited for that. But as usual, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week for yet another episode of the Smart Money Show. Take care until then, and stay tuned. Thank you.